Good morning, Crossroads Church. It's a nice, brisk Sunday morning in Colorado if you're watching us online and you're somewhere warmer. But if you're with us at Fort Lupton campus, at our Thornton campus, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're glad you're here. If you have a Bible, find where Paul writes the best love passage ever written on earth. It's in 1 Corinthians 13. I'm going to look at that with you in just a moment as I continue in this series that I started last week and I'm going to do all month long, called Meant to be Spent, where we're looking at our lives as a way to change the world. So I'll get into that in just a moment. I want to add my word of encouragement to those of you your campus pastor just mentioned to you about the vote coming up on the 27th. Even if you're not a member here and can't officially cast a vote, we want you there. It's going to be worth being a part of and just experiencing what's so rarely, and honestly, I've never even seen a transition plan like this play out all the way to its conclusion, which is where we're heading. We started 4 years ago. By the end of it, it'll be 5 years. And so that's happening. We're doing the vote next Sunday the 27th. At our Thornton campus, and we want you there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Just want to add my word of encouragement in that that will be in anticipation of Pastor Matt taking on the senior pastor role, not then, but on January 1st of 2020. All right? So a 58, almost 60-year-old church, and we'll be voting on our third senior pastor. There's something to be said about that. I'm so thankful to be part of this great, great church. One of the reasons I'm thankful is because I think most of us grab this notion that God has given us the role, the responsibility as followers of Jesus to make a difference in our world. That God's plan is that we partner with Him in the work of the kingdom on earth, and that we do that in ways that actually look to the watching world as dramatic, as reckless, as changing, as something that means we're listening to a higher calling. And that's what the body of Christ does all around the world. That's God's plan, to change the world. We would all agree that the world needs help, and we're here to be part of that change in helping people meet Jesus, and then in seeing the change that He makes in our lives so that we change the way we live, the way we love, the way we use and spend our money, and the way we work, which are the four topics I'm addressing this series. So every year I try to read a little bit of Martin Luther King Jr. as we get into his week, the week we celebrate his life and his legacy, and I'm reading this year, Strength to Love, and since this is the week I'm going to be talking about love, I thought I'd read just a paragraph out of this book as a way of setting things up today. So he writes this: "No prodigious thunderbolt from heaven will ever blast away evil. No mighty army of angels will descend to force men to do what their wills resist. The Bible portrays God not as an omnipotent czar who makes all decisions for his subjects, nor as a cosmic tyrant with a Gestapo-like method invading the inner lives of men, but rather as a loving father who gives to his children such abundant blessing as they may be willing to receive. Always man must do something. Stand upon thy feet, says God to Ezekiel, and I will speak unto thee." I love that notion that stand to our feet and let God speak to us. God's plan is all right here. It's all written out for us in the scriptures, and it's always been, that His people stand to their feet and listen to Him, give us marching orders for how then we live and spend and invest our lives to do what He says to make a difference in this world. And we're looking at 4 of those areas this month in this series called Meant to be Spent. Our lives are meant to be invested, spent on behalf of others. Our life, our love, which is what I'm talking about today. Next week, our money, and the following week, our work, how we spend our work. So I've set it up this way. All the way through Scripture, particularly in the New Testament, it is obvious to me that there's one of 2 ways we can live our lives. One is God's way and one is not God's way. We can spend our lives either on behalf of others, or we can spend others on behalf of our life. So God would have us, and to frame it up in today's topic with love, it's point number 1, that we would spend our love for others rather than spending others in order to be loved, for our love. So spending ourselves for others is God's plan, spending our love for others, rather than spending others for ourselves or spending others for the love that we need. And it's a beautiful way that this works, and it works in our favor, works in our benefit. It's for our good and the good of others and the good of the world and the glory of God. So God has directed his people to recognize that everything, as you heard in the Martin Luther King statement, that God has given us everything, that God has abundantly blessed us. Everything we have is a gift of grace, even and especially, as I hope to point out today, the love he gives us, and he wants us to respond to him by investing ourselves, and this week, our love on behalf of others. Why? Why would this be so important to God? Well, it's quite simple, actually. The only way this world is ever going to experience any semblance of greater peace or greater hope or greater love, any lessening of the impacts of sin and its devastation, and the only way this world we're living in is going to see salvation for what it is, the only way this world is going to see God's glory and goodness and recognize the power and the love of Jesus is when Christians, people who say they follow Jesus, is when we stand up and move in directions of realities around us with the gospel, with a determination to be empowered by the Holy Spirit to make a change, to make a difference, to love differently, to live differently, to use and spend our resources differently, and to work differently. But the reality is, and here's my contention, this is what drives me. For too many decades now, the Church of Jesus has been largely invested in its own comfort, largely spending its resources on its own pleasures and growing in its own interests. That it has lost largely the Church of Jesus, especially in this country, and surrendered almost all of its influence and its impact on the forces of culture and popular society. And far too long now we have been dedicated to building our own little kingdoms, our own little programming, with little or no cooperation and partnership with one another. That's obvious by how we do church every Sunday morning. And with little or no courage, really, to collectively be God's people. And instead, it ends up splintering and diluting the very plan of God for his people on earth, for whom he gave his very life, and it's time we change that. And we can change that, but that kind of change will not happen collectively until it happens individually. You and me making a decision, we're going to live our life differently. So I want to talk about love today. I want to talk about love from 1 Corinthians 13, the greatest thesis, the greatest a piece of literature on earth that speaks about love. It's probably not only the greatest, but the most familiar. And then I want to challenge us at the end with two challenges, really to be inspired to spend your love, to willingly move out of yourself into areas of where love can be difficult, certainly, but also where love is fun. It's fun to love others, when you start seeing others there, when you choose to love. And then I want to give you a challenge to love difficult people. Okay, so this is 1 Corinthians 13. I'm going to read starting at verse 1. Paul says this, "If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but do not have love, I'm a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith so that I can remove mountains," that's pretty big faith, "but don't have love, I am nothing." And then he says this, "If I give it all away, give all that I have away, and if I even deliver my body up to be burned, burn me, but do not have love, there's no gain." Verse 4, "Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant. It is not rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing. It rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. As for prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, we prophesy in part, but when the perfect comes, the partial will pass away. When I was a child, I spoke like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child, but when I became an adult, I gave up childish ways. I willingly chose that. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then we will see face to face. Now only in part, but then I shall know fully, even as I have been fully known. So now, faith, hope, and love abide. These three. But the greatest of these is, say it, just say it out loud. But the greatest of these is love. All right, like I said last weekend, the ultimate goal of the Christian life is not to be comfortable. It's not to wrap yourself in nice little Christian bubble wrap and hope nothing impacts you. The goal of the Christian life is not even to be a good person. The goal of the Christian life is not even to have an enjoyable personal relationship with Jesus Christ that blesses your heart and gives you assurance. Jesus leads us ultimately to himself for salvation, which is ultimately to love, out of love for us, so that we would show those around us that love. So that we would love as we have been loved. To express it in tangible, real ways. The very love that he has expressed to us. The way of Jesus is love. In fact, I would say to you, point number 2, love is the essence of Christian living. It's the essence of knowing Jesus. It's the essence of being a Christian. And I'll prove it to you from Jesus' words. In John chapter 13, he says, by this you will know that, everyone will know that you are my disciples, you are my followers, if you have love for one another. And then over in his letter, that was from the Gospel of John, over in his letter, 1 John, his first letter, chapter 4, at verse 7, John writes this, beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God, and whoever loves has been born of God and knows God. Anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love. In this, the love of God was made manifest among us, that God sent his only Son into the world, so that we might live through him. In this is love. Not that we loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son to be the propitiation for our sins, to take our punishment. Beloved, if God so loved us, we ought also to love one another. No one has ever seen God. If we love one another, God abides in us, and his love is perfected in us. And if you read all the way down to the end of that chapter, and I won't do it, but if you do, you'll see that point just gets sharper, razor sharp, sharper and sharper as John lands that point. We will be different because we love different. We will be different because we've been loved. We don't spend or exploit others so that we feel loved. Christians are people who spend our love on the behalf of others so they understand and see love. Ultimately, so they see Jesus. So that they see the love of God in us and through us. That's the incredible plan of God. Love is patient and kind, never envious, never boastful, never rude. But I want you to notice something in this text, okay? I need to take one little dive in the deep end of the pool with you right now. Did you notice how Paul started this passage? It's very striking, and it always crushes me. Paul starts it by saying, in the very opening words, if I speak with tongues, if I have prophecy, if I have all this knowledge, if I have all the power to do all these things, but do not have love, I am nothing. So don't let this be lost on us. Do you see what he's saying here? It's very sobering. It is possible to have all the externals, to be able to speak well, to be able to prophesy, to be able to interpret tongues, to be able to move a mountain with my faith. But if I don't have love, what Paul is saying, then I really don't have God. We can be as generous and giving and wise and important and gifted as any human being on earth. But if we don't have love, we are nothing, not even Christian. We're just noise. Now, I love cymbals. I was a percussionist in high school. But if you listen to a cymbal all day long, it becomes annoying. Ask my parents who bought me a drum set when I was young. It can be annoying. That's us. Without love, all we are is annoying. That's what God says. So when we read this passage, we tend to read it like a list of things we should do. And that's not what I'm saying. That's not where I'm going with you. I mean, it is a list, but it's not first a list. If it were a list, here's how Paul would write it. He would have saying, Instead of verse 4 saying, love is patient, love is kind, it would say, you be patient, you be kind, don't be rude, you don't be boastful, you don't envy. So I'm going to offer to you, this is not a checklist of things that we need to do in order to become love, to show love, to spread love, to spend our love. I want you to see what's happening here. This isn't first a behavioral checklist. The Bible is never so unrealistic as to present to us a list of how to have love. It's way too important than that. It's too central to relegate it to a list. That's not what's happening here. What's happening in this text is we're being confronted with love. This is telling us that before we can do love, before we can be love, we have to have a head-on collision with love. Paul is saying, look at it. This is what love is. Before you can do love, before you can be love, before you can spend your love, you have to encounter it. You have to meet it. You have to confront it. And only when that happens, in your heart, on the inside of you, will you ever be able to become love and be loving. You might be able to pretend until then, but you won't be able to be the real deal, where you can honestly spend your love on behalf of others and do so willingly with a glad heart. When Paul says love is this and love is that, what he's doing is he's painting us a beautiful picture of what pure love, real love, essential love is. He's confronting us first. And then in verse 7 he says, love bears all things, love believes all things, love hopes all things, love endures all things, and then the first part of verse 8, love never ends. That's beautiful. In fact, that's the best definition of love ever. That love, true love is, you know what that's saying, verse 7, that true love is ultimately unconditional. That love doesn't love someone for what you can get from that person. Love doesn't love someone for the love you can get from that person. Love loves others for that person just because they are that person. Who they are, faults and all. True love loves unconditionally. Paul is making the point that real love, God's love, loves unconditionally. And isn't that what we all want? We all want love that bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things about me, that will never end. We all long for that love. That's what's deep inside of us. In fact, we would feel very dehumanized, and some of you have and know exactly what this feels like. We'd feel very dehumanized if we felt love from someone just for what we could give them. Some of you know that because you're parents, or you're in a relationship with somebody who demonstrates love toward you, but only because of what they can get from you. Your money, your time, your attention, the value they get for themselves because they can say they know you or hang with you. One of the most fundamental truths of being a human being is this core need that all human beings have, to be both known and loved. To be both known, it's one of the most profound realities, to be known and loved. Because it's one thing to be loved and not known. That's very easy. You can love somebody you don't know everything about, kind of. It's a whole other thing to be known and not loved. That's horrible. But it's a whole different level to be both known and loved. Be known down to your bones, down to your core, down to your every corpuscle. To be known like that and to be loved for who you are. I'm going to suggest it's what we're made for. We're made to need and want unconditional love. But here's the problem. Let me ask you a question. Why in the world do human beings, every one of us, need and want unconditional love? That kind of love, to be loved, to be known and loved down to our core. Why is it that everyone wants that? And I'll just preface this by saying this is a very tough philosophical question to answer. In fact, I don't think, if you're not a Christian, it probably can't be answered at all unless you answer it through the lens of Jesus. Why in the world do human beings all need and want unconditional love? Why do we have this absolutely ridiculous, irrational impulse to want to be known and loved, the need to be loved unconditionally for who I am? Why is it that we all want love that bears all things, hopes all things, believes all things, endures all things, and yet every one of us knows there's not a person in the world who can love like that? Not unendingly. There's not a person in the world. You can't love unconditionally. I can't love unconditionally. Why is it we all have this need and yet nobody can do it? Why do we insist on it? Why do we live for it? Why do we long for this irresistible impulse? And here's why. I just said it. We're made for it. God has made us to need that kind of love. One author calls it, for the whole human race, a memory trace. He says it's a memory trace of the smile and the love and the embrace of our Creator, the only one who can love us this way, the only one who can and did show us unconditional love. It's what we're all after. So what's happening in this text, first of all, it's so beautiful, we cannot miss this, is that it's not a checklist. This is, first, a person and a power that you have to encounter. And when you read this, you can't hardly read this text without thinking about a person. Love is patient, love is kind, love is never jealous, it never gives up, it always endures, always hopes, always believes, love never ends. So I'm offering to you, what Paul is doing here, do you see it, is that he's personifying love. He's saying, first, love is not a checklist of things in order for you to be loving. It's first a person you have to encounter, a power you have to encounter before you can be loving. The only way any of us can truly love or get close to unconditionally loving other people, which is kind of what it's going to require in order to spend our love. We have to first know this love. We have to first meet this love, this person who is absolute unconditional love toward us and what he did for us, to meet Jesus. Point number 3, spending love means meeting love as a power in a person. What Paul is doing is describing the very Jesus Christ who saved his life, who knocked him off his horse, his high horse, who blinded him to anything else he would see. And Paul met Jesus. And his name was Saul. He got a name changed to Paul. And now he writes, this is the love we have to encounter. The love of God in Jesus Christ. And then, one more thought, tie it together, and I'll get real practical with you. In verse 6, something really interesting happens. And it only happens when we read it slowly. We always read the Bible too fast. Love rejoices with the truth. Love rejoices with the truth. All right. We read that and we think, okay, love rejoices with the truth. What does that mean? It means love is glad when truth is spoken. Love rejoices when people are honest. That's how we interpret that, which is usually true. Sometimes it's not true. I've been in situations where the truth actually didn't feel like love at all. It was very harsh, or it was absolutely the opposite of love. So this line must mean more than love rejoices with truth being spoken. And it does mean more than that because, and this is my job as your pastor, because in the Greek, in the original language, it's actually translates out a little bit differently. It actually doesn't say love rejoices with the truth. That's how we translate it because it's easier for our English minds to keep it in context. What the literal Greek is love sings along with the truth. That's quite different. Now just think about that just 2 minutes with me. Here's what's happening here. It's the revelation that love sings along with the truth. It absolutely implies that truth is singing already. That truth is already speaking, singing. And to be loving means we sing with that truth. We join our voices with the truth that's already being spoken, the truth of Jesus. love sings along with the truth. That's literally what it says in the Greek. Love sings. So Jesus is the truth. He already identified himself as the truth, the way, the truth, and life. So here's the truth. It's already doing its speaking. It's already doing its singing, according to the scriptures. And what are we supposed to do? To be and understand what it means to have love. We're to encounter that truth and then to join the song. Love joins that song of truth and starts singing that same love song. Do you see it? The truth, who is Jesus, isn't just something or someone you like or agree with or admire. The truth of Jesus is someone you look at, you give your life to, you receive his salvation, and then you add on purpose every day as a choice your voice to sing the same song of love he's singing to the entire world. That's what this is saying. Have you ever been in church? I don't know where else this would happen, maybe at the symphony, I don't know. Where you're singing, we're all singing along, and somebody behind you is singing really well. You know, I'm not talking about those people that don't sing well and you're kind of like, you know, I might want to slip over. I'm talking about the people who sing really, and they're singing behind you and you just want to go, join them? I kind of get that experience when I'm in church with my daughter, Destiny, and we're standing next to each other because she has this great harmony voice, and when she lets that rip, man, we sound great together. We're going to go on the road someday, I just know it. But it's beautiful. So that's exactly what's happening here. That experience, Jesus is singing this song. Love sings along with the truth. That's what it says. He's already singing. And we hear it when we encounter it. And it's so beautiful that we have to sing it with him. It's a song of love for you. You know that? First, it's a song of love for you. You cannot love others until you know how much God loves you. There's this beautiful place in Isaiah chapter 49 where Isaiah writes this lovely statement in verse 16. Isaiah 49:16. It says, God, you've heard it, God has engraved us on the palm of his hand. Have you seen that? That is so beautiful. It speaks of how important you are to God because he loves you. Have you ever, I've seen people with tattoos of people's names. You know, they have a name of someone on their shoulder or on their bicep or on their neck or wherever. And anytime I see that and I have a moment, you know, we're in a line or something, I'll always ask them about that person. I'll always say, well, tell me about Isaiah. Or tell me about Maria or Susie or whatever it says. And that person will always tell me, and it's often about someone who's died. It's never, I'll tell you, it's never about someone they didn't love. Well, I have had the occasion where it was the name of an ex, and that doesn't go so well. But the ones that do go well, okay. Do you see what Isaiah says? God didn't just put a tattoo on his hands. And it's not on the back of his hands. It's an engraving of your name on the palm of his hands. Do you see how much God loves you? That he has put your name on the palm of his hands where he sees it every day. And now he's singing that song into your life so that you would hear that melody and that you would want to join that love song and you would sing it with the truth. And that others would be the recipients of that song. You would spend and invest your love in that direction. You cannot love until you know how greatly you are loved and valued by Jesus. And this is what Paul is saying here. When you let God pick you up in his hands and you learn to be loved by him, which is why some of you are having trouble loving others. Because either you don't believe or you've not been convinced that God loves you. And I don't know what else he can do other than to send his son to die for you. And now he's singing a love song that says love is patient, love is kind. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. And so he pours that love into your heart. And once you understand it, once you start believing it, once you get it into the core of your being, once you're around that and you speak to God about it and you sing the love songs back to him about it, you can start to see expression of love, room to express love, to spend your love in tangible ways on behalf of others. Before love is something we do, it's someone we meet. And when we meet that kind of love, and when we understand it, when we start to experience it, and then when we start to sing along with the truth, when our lives start to join that truth in that song, we can invest it in the lives of others on their behalf for their good without expecting anything in return. As unconditional as we will ever get before we see Jesus. Here's what it will do. Point number 4. Because this is my thing. Because we are loved, we can choose to love. Because we are loved, that's point number 4. Because we are loved, we can choose to love. All right, it's not coming up on the screen, so you just have to write it in there. We can choose to love. Oh, there it is. This is so critical because every day you get up out of bed, you put your feet on the ground, and you can make a decision for the person you spent the night with, for the people you're going to encounter in your home, for the people you're going to see when you walk out your door, who are your neighbors, for the people you're going to work with, going to school with, going to work out with, going to play sports with, going to bowl with, the people you're going to eat dinner with, even strangers that you're going to go shopping with, even people you are going to encounter who you've never met before. You can choose to love every day, everybody, always. And it will change the world. Jesus gives us that power. The world can be different. Now, I'm going to end by giving you a couple practicalities. Inspiration. I'm going to give you some inspiration and a challenge, okay? Inspiration. I told you last week I'm going to recommend books each week that you can choose to grab or not. It's on your message outline. So I'm recommending 3 books this weekend. This one by Martin Luther King Jr., Strength to Love. This guy will rock your world if you've never encountered other than the I Have a Dream speech. This will give you courage. The other 2 books I'm going to recommend, both by the same author by Bob Goff, are books that will inspire you, all right? So this guy is a lawyer who's a Christian. I know, go figure, how did that happen? He's a lawyer who loves Jesus, so don't read them like theology. This you can read theologically. These 2 read inspirationally. When I read Bob Goff, who I did this fall again because I needed inspiration in my life, because I want to finish my final year as senior pastor here, just knocking it out of the park as best that I can. I don't want to be a lame duck. I want to soar with you eagles, all right? And this guy will do it for me. He will light my fuse. His first book is good. His second book is more better. It is. It's a better book. So I'm recommending both. When I read this, I get inspired. My mind goes crazy because he just loves people in outrageous ways, in very practical ways. Every day he gets up and he says, God, how can I love people today? And he does strange things when strangers ask him. And so here's what he did to me this Christmas, because I read it this fall. Just one little example. I live in a great neighborhood. I have some great neighbors. And a few of them come to this church. And some of them ought to be coming to this church. So perpendicular to me, I have some neighbors who are same-sex partners, Rich and Sean. And my wife and I greeted them when they moved in, discovered that they were rescue dog foster home. So they would call us every time they got foster dogs, and we'd go over and we'd pet the dogs and we'd, share with them. We got to know this couple, and when he learned what I did for a living, he kind of assumed this position of, well, then you probably don't like us. You probably don't like us because we're gay. And he didn't say that, and I didn't say anything different, but Cheryl and I just decided we're going to love them. We're just going to love them so they can see Jesus in us, not judgment in us. It's a whole different J. So we've done different things. We went to he graduated with his GED, Rich did, and we went over with a whole bunch of balloons and celebrated with them, and all their friends were there, and Rich's parents were there who were obviously not happy about his lifestyle choice, and we just celebrated with them. Well, this Christmas, I went into the Dollar Tree to buy all my Christmas gifts for people. And I walked in, and there's a whole table full of motion-detected Santa Claus and snowmen, who, when you turn them on, Santa does this. I'll see if you can hear it.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas! Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
Okay, he keeps going like that, and he's motion activated. So I bought one, and I put it by my front door, and every time we'd come in, it would do this. And finally, Cheryl goes, "This is driving me nuts," and she shut it off. That gave me an idea. I thought, what if I go buy a bunch of these, and I set them on our neighbors' porches in kind of a sleuthing way, so they didn't. And I just set a whole bunch of them. So when they came out, like 10 or 15 of these would just start going randomly, ho, ho, and they would go, and they'd be shocked, and then they'd smile, right? But they wouldn't know it's me because I would put a note, and this is what I did, that said, "You've just been Santa Claused. Merry Christmas, a feisty neighbor." That's all I put. Now, the reason I chose Santa is not because I'm a Santa fan, but because he says Christmas. Merry Christmas. It's Santa with Jesus on his lips, kind of. So I bought a bunch of these. I mean, I probably bought 60 of them over the course of these weeks. And I went over to, the first neighbor I Santa Claus was Rich and Sean. As an action, I just thought, okay, God, maybe I can show them love, because they'll figure out who it is, but I don't care. So I went over there in the daytime. That was a mistake. Every other one that I did, all the other 15 or 20, I did at night. But I did this one during the day because I wanted to practice. So I didn't know, as I carried all these over in my bag quietly, that they would be home. I didn't know they would be home. And not until I got there did I see the front door was cracked open just a little, but I thought, I think I can get away with this. So I started to pull these Santas out and activate them. Well, I didn't know that when you activate them, they start ho-ho-hoing immediately. So he's going ho-ho-ho like this. So I'm hiding under my coat, wait until he's done, and then I set him real gently so I don't activate him. And I did this for 10 of them. And then I set the note there. "You've just been Santa Claus. Merry Christmas, a feisty neighbor." And I turned around. And as I turned around to go back to my house, which I could get to without being seen because of the way his trailer is parked in his... I thought all this out. The way his trailer's parked in his driveway. I thought I could get home just easily, nonchalantly, until his dog from inside the house saw me. And his dog wanted to let everybody know that I was there. So his dog starts barking wildly, which gives me the clue to book it. I start running across the street. I ditch around his trailer. And just as I do that, the door opens, and all these Santas go, "Ho, ho, 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 Merry Christmas." And I faintly heard it with my hard of hearing ears, and I giggled all the way to my front door, thinking, I did it. 2 nights later, on my front door, I hear this rapping that is loud, and I'm kind of startled. I go to the front door, no one's there. There's a box on my front porch. It has one of these Santas in it, this one, the only one I have left, and 2 beautiful Yankee candles that smell real beautiful, and a note that says, "You've just been blessed. Merry Christmas, a friendly neighbor." I thought, I am not going to be outloved by somebody who doesn't even know Jesus. So, this year my dad inspired me to make brittle, peanut brittle, whatever. So this year I made pecan brittle. And I gave it away to some of our staff and just as a little gift. Well, I made him a big tray of pecan brittle, and Cheryl and I brought it over there, and we said, we didn't get away with that very well, did we? Santa Clausing you, and they go, "Oh, that was the best thing. We thought that was the best thing ever." We just wanted you to know, by giving you that we are so thankful you are our neighbor. And they both come out and they give us this big hug. Now, I don't know that I'll ever lead them to Jesus, but I will tell you that I think they saw Jesus in a pastor who they first thought should probably not even like them. That's what they thought. This is what Bob Goff will do to you, that kind of a thing. Now, I could go on, but let me go to my final thing, the challenge. I have to give you a challenge. And the challenge is written there. You see it? In a tangible way, love someone difficult. So here's how it worked in my life. Just to give you an example. And by the way, this one is completed. I still have others I have to work on. So every day you get up, you make a choice to love people. And I'm challenging you to, before the week's out, to love someone difficult. So I call them irregular people. I have them in my life. People who are irregular, who just don't match, who just don't click with me. And one such guy, some of you know, so I'm going to call him Lil Wayne, like the rapper. Some of you know the rapper Lil Wayne. I'm going to call him Lil Wayne because Lil Wayne irritates me. So I'm going to call this guy Lil Wayne. Well, Lil Wayne, he would encounter me, he'd see me, and he was always condescending to me. He always had things he knew I should be doing. He always criticized how I did it. He was always kind of rough around the edges with me and other people. And others who would encounter him would come to me and say, man, how do you even stand that guy? And on and on. He was kind of belligerent, a know-it-all. And I would just find myself avoiding him. You know, I'd see him coming toward me, and I'd just kind of avoid him. And one day, God said to me, you know, it's never audible. It's always in my spirit. You need to love Lil Wayne. You need to love Lil Wayne. And I go, God, I know, but he just irritates me so much. We'll love him. See what happens. So, the way I knew to love him was to just pay attention to him. So rather than ditch him, I sought him out. I went in and I would say to him, hey, Lil Wayne, what's going on? And I listened to him while he told me about his day. And I'd listen to his outlandish ideas that he wanted me to do. And I'd say things like, well, that's interesting. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Which, by the way, if I ever say that to you, well, never mind. And over time, I saw Lil Wayne change. Not only with me, but with others that he would encounter. And I saw Lil Wayne start to, here's what I think happened, love himself better. I think what was happening was he didn't really love himself, and he never got love from others, so the only attention he could get was negative attention, which is better than no attention at all. I don't know, I'm not a psychiatrist. But I do know this, it changed Lil Wayne. And now Lil Wayne and I have this good relationship where we love to share with each other. We almost look forward to seeing each other. It's so interesting how love will change. So you have somebody difficult to love in your life. And you're thinking of that person right now. And because you're thinking of that person, that's the person God wants you to go talk to go love. In some tangible way. God will help you. Jesus will show you. And you can do it. You know why? Because you have been loved. You have been loved in such a way that it's an absolute, unconditional love that God has loved you with. He's singing that in you now. Go sing that to someone difficult to love. See what happens. Okay? Spend your love. Let's pray. God, give us the grace and the mercy and the help to be loving the people that we want to be, the people that sometimes is very difficult to be. So thank you for the time to be together today. Thank you for what you are doing in our church, in our midst, in our homes, in our lives, in this world, and that much of it is being done through us, by you, and your good grace and work of mercy in our lives. So we pray, thank you, and praying for our good, the good of others, and the glory of God, your glory, in the strong and the absolute beautiful name of Jesus, our Savior. Amen.